Well, let's talk now to Dana Thomas, who's a fashion journalist and author. Good to see Dana. So how can you sum this up? But what is Mary Quant's contribution to the world of fashion, would you say?
Well, she brought women freedom from the new look being Christian Dior's look from the 1940s and 50s of cinched waists and heavy skirts and heavy clothes that weighed women down and made feminism pretty much impossible. So she freed us from crinoline skirts and twin sets and gave us mini skirts, and her rallying cry was modern youth, that she was the beginning of when women started looking like young women, and young women looked like young women rather than looking like their mothers or dressing like their mothers. Her wash and wear haircut got rid instead of the bouffant, her mini skirts instead of big full skirts, her soft clothes, and her really cool go-go boots.
And this was really groundbreaking at the time, wasn't it? But also faced some opposition.
It did face opposition. It was, it was radical in part because it was completely the opposite of what everybody had been wearing. I mean, you think about Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. That was the look, the Jackie Kennedy look. And Mary Quant was doing the exact opposite. And in fact, there was a very famous moment in Washington, D.C., where Joan Kennedy, the sister-in-law of Jackie Kennedy, showed up in the White House in one of these Mary Quant, I don't know if it was Mary Quant herself, but inspired mini-skirt suits or dresses. And it caused quite a scandal in Washington at the time because women weren't supposed to be showing off their legs, and certainly not to that level of just, derriere skimming with these groovy boots that came up to your knees. It was very sort of Goldie Hawn, go-go, flower power, love child clothing.
So she popularised the mini-skirt, also hot pants and skinny ribbed jumpers. But she reached beyond the world of fashion, didn't she? She was also influential in wider culture in the 60s and beyond.
Well, absolutely. She was one of the first who really went into spinning out her business in all these different directions. Again, something that Christian Dior had started by doing like hosiery and a few other lines, but she wound up doing Mary Quant makeup and Mary Quant bed linens and Mary Quant everything. And it's funny because looking at the figures, she grew her company to $20 million a year in sales, which at the time was enormous. Now we have $10 billion a year. Christian Dior and Louis Vuitton and Chanel do, billions and billions in sales, in Gucci. So, but at the time, it felt like a lot. And she was also a trailblazing businesswoman at a time when women were not doing this. The only other one out there was Coco Chanel.
So a groundbreaking designer, a trailblazing businesswoman. What will she be remembered for, though, do you think? What will her legacy be?
I think her legacy will be that she was the one who interpreted in fashion what was happening in the swinging 60s in London, which was a serious movement. She was thought of when she went to America as the fifth Beatle. And I think that that's a really fair assessment of her, that she really did interpret through clothing what the Beatles were doing through music, what artists like Hockney were doing in painting. It was of its moment, and when you look at it, you understand exactly what the culture was and what the zeitgeist was at that time.
Dana, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. That's Dana Thomas, the fashion journalist and author.